Hi, Mom. You were in the hospital for malnutrition. Weren't you eating properly? I've been sending you money. Yeah, thank you for that. But 60 cents. You know the fee costs more than that, so don't worry about it. 60 cents? What do you mean? I'm broke and I've been living a frugal life, cutting down on food and utility expenses. Eventually, I collapsed from malnutrition. My eldest son, Raymond, has been sending me 60 cents every month. I told him it's not the amount but the thought that counts. I thought I'd been sending you 100 a month. Soon, shocking truths were revealed one after another from Raymond. I am Caroline. I am turning 80 this year. I lost my husband 5 years ago, and now I live alone in an old apartment. Since getting married, I have been a full-time housewife, relying on my own pension and my husband's survivor's pension as my only income. Life is not easy, and I have been cutting corners day by day. Of course, I save on food expenses as well as utilities and water bills, and I barely get by living in a cheap apartment. Today, it has been lightly snowing since morning, but I don't turn on the heater to save electricity. I wear a down jacket and layer warm pants in the house to stave off the cold. My fingers are chapped and bleeding from doing chores with cold water. I have frostbite on my left hand, which is swollen and red-black as I rub my stiff fingertips while cleaning up after lunch. My daughter-in-law, Samantha, comes to visit. Hello, mother-in-law. I brought this week's medicine. It's the usual $80. Samantha brings me medicine every week. Raymond also cares for me, but he's busy as a pharmacist at a large hospital, so Samantha looks after me. A few years ago, Samantha accompanied me to the hospital for checkups, but recently she only delivers the medicine. It's cheaper this way, she says. Honestly, the medicine is a big expense for me, who is broke. However, I am told that stopping the medication will cause discomfort, so I have it delivered every week. Samantha used to be a pharmacist at a hospital like Raymond. However, she quit her job after getting married and now works part-time at a local drugstore. I'm always grateful for your help, Samantha. By the way, do you know anything about the box of rice crackers I had stored in the drawer? The one with the kids' scribbles on the lid. It's been missing since last week. I point to the dresser in the back. Last week, I had Samantha tidy up around the dresser, but the box has been missing ever since. Inside the box, I kept my hard-earned savings, a box of rice crackers. I don't know anything about that. Maybe you put it somewhere and forgot about it. Can you not blame me? Samantha, perhaps hurt by the suspicion, took the money for the medicine and left with an unpleasant look on her face. I can't argue with that. After putting away the medicine, I grabbed my cane and went toward the post office. Today is the end of the month. Since my husband passed away 5 years ago, I have had no other income than my pension. My son Raymond, concerned for me, has been sending me money every month. My bank book, spit out from the ATM as usual, had deposit 60 cents written on it. The amount sent was so little that the transfer fees seemed to cost more, but it's the thought that counts. Though it doesn't help much with daily life, I am grateful for it. After leaving the post office, I headed to my regular greengrocer. Since I visited every week, I became quite familiar with the energetic owner Dane, who is in his 60s. When I went to the store just before closing, I could get unsold or bruised vegetables at a discount. I always went to the store in the evening, targeting those discounts. Today, I got bruised turnips and radishes and wilting spinach. I thanked Dane and went home to pickle all the turnips and radishes in my homemade brine. The secret brine pickles I've been making for years as a hobby and to save money are excellent in both flavor and texture. I had a simple but delicious dinner of spinach and pickles. Lately, my health has been deteriorating. I feel dizzy when I stand up and I get short of breath just from moving a little. My nails and fingertips are also in bad shape. Perhaps my body is weak because I haven't been eating well due to cutting food expenses. I've had health issues before, but I never paid much attention, thinking it was due to age. But recently, the pain in my body is unbearable, and the dizziness is terrible. I tried calling Samantha to see if she could take me to the hospital. The hospital, just for dizziness. Well, I'm old, so it might be inevitable. But I'm worried. I haven't been to the hospital in years. Could you take me for once? But I'm busy, I don't have time. Raymond is working non-stop too. I'm sorry, but can we do it another time? It's not that urgent. Samantha refused to accompany me to the hospital. Even the nearest hospital is quite far from my home. Being broke, I can afford not only the medical fees but even the transportation costs. Oh, and please don't contact Raymond. He's in a crucial period at work. If anything happens, please contact me. Samantha emphasized that and then hung up the phone. I sighed and took my medicine with cold water. One day, as I was chatting with Dane at my usual greengrocer, I was hit by another severe bout of dizziness. Unable to support myself with a cane, I squatted down on the spot. Dane rushed over. "Are you okay?" and peered into my face. The dizziness didn't subside even when I sat down. "I'm just feeling a bit dizzy. Nothing is wrong. I'm fine." As I said that, I tried to stand up forcefully. Suddenly, the world spun around and I fainted. When I woke up, I found myself in a hospital bed. Dane was sitting beside me, receiving an IV drip. I heard the story from Dane. Apparently, after I collapsed at the greengrocer's, he called an ambulance for me. I had slept all night since being brought to the hospital, and it was already bright outside. The doctor explained that I had anemia due to severe malnutrition. Unbeknownst to me, my bones had become hollow, and my body was in a more serious condition than I thought. I was worried about the treatment costs and wanted to leave early, but the doctor told me I had to be hospitalized for a week. "Caroline, I always tell you to eat properly. I was shocked when you suddenly collapsed." Dane had always been concerned about my health. "Sorry for making you worry, but I don't have any money." "Didn't you have an eldest son? He's a doctor or something, right? He must be earning a good salary working at a hospital, so he could at least send you some money." "He's a pharmacist. I've been receiving support from him." I smile awkwardly and close my mouth. "I receive a monthly allowance from Raymond, but it's too small to help with my living expenses. With the weekly medicine fee I pay to Samantha, even my pension has been significantly reduced. Dane says I should get more money, but I'm hesitant to accept money earned by others, even if they're family. However, what worries me now is the hospitalization cost. With my barely getting by lifestyle, I can't imagine affording such high medical bills. Also, I'm concerned about my precious rice brine pickles. If I don't stir them every 3 days, they'll go bad." After thanking Dane for returning to the store, I searched for my cell phone to contact Samantha. Looking at the screen, I saw that the battery had died. I don't remember Samantha's number, but I memorized Raymond's because it's similar to my home number. Samantha told me not to contact Raymond, but with things like this, I can't avoid it. I borrowed the hospital phone to call Raymond. "Hello? Oh, thank goodness. It's been a while since we connected, Raymond. It's your mother. Sorry to call you during work." Samantha had forbidden it, but I called Raymond from time to time. I just wanted to hear his cheerful voice, but for some reason, he never answered my calls. Was he too busy with work to answer the phone? Anyway, I was relieved that the phone connected during this crucial time. I thought, who could this be? "It's been a while since you called, Mom. Where are you calling from?" I was reluctant to worry my eldest son, but I admitted I was in the hospital. I briefly explained to the surprised Raymond how I had collapsed and been hospitalized. "What? Malnutrition, Mom? Haven't you been eating properly? I've been sending you money for that reason." "Yes, I'm really grateful for that. Your support means a lot to me. But 60 cents might cost more in fees, so don't worry too much." 60 cents fees? What do you mean? With a puzzled tone, I told Raymond how I received 60 cents from him every month and that I appreciated the gesture more than the amount. "I thought I was sending more money to Mom," Raymond finally speaks, as if squeezing out the words. "Wait, I'm curious about that too. But you mentioned malnutrition, right? Mom should have been going to the hospital every month, and she should be getting her medicine. Hasn't the doctor said anything until now?" "Yeah, I'm getting the medicine. Samantha delivers it to the house every week. I haven't been to the hospital in years. Lately, I've been having bad dizziness and palpitations, and I wanted to go to the hospital if possible. But Samantha said I'm busy, so maybe next time. Just the medicine every week." Raymond seems to be worried about something as he mumbles on the phone. "Anyway, I know you're busy, but could you please bring me some clothes and the insurance card on your next day off? And I'd like you to mix the rice brine pickles every 3 days, all right? I have the keys to our parents' house, so I'll leave work early today and go there. Don't worry about the hospital bills. I'll be there by evening." Raymond seems strangely preoccupied, but I'm grateful he can come right away. "Thanks. Be sure to wash your hands well and mix the pickles with your bare hands, Mom. I'm here. How are you feeling? Are you okay?" After the call, Raymond shows up in the afternoon. It seemed he left work early. As he organizes the clothes and personal belongings he brought from the house, he asks me in detail about recent events, about the house, my health, The medicine, Samantha. It's like a continuation of this morning's phone call. He also brought my bank book from home, and we opened it to check the contents together. From the date 5 years ago, there's a series of deposit 60-cent entries. Raymond glares at them with a fierce expression. Since this morning's call, Raymond's behavior has been strange. Did something happen at work? I thought he must have been very busy, as I had tried calling him 2 or 3 times a month, but never got through, and he never returned my calls. I feel bad for making him leave work early today. I casually apologize for it, and Raymond is taken aback and asks rapid-fire questions. He quickly takes out his smartphone and starts operating it intently as soon as he hears my story. What's been going on with him? Raymond gazes at the screen for a while, then operates his smartphone again to send a message to Samantha. He then grabs his backpack and says, "I'll be back shortly." He leaves the room, leaving behind a strange sense of unease, but I lie down in bed anyway. That evening, Raymond returns to the room. He puts down his backpack and asks how I'm feeling. After receiving an IV and sleeping in a warm bed for the first time in a while, I feel much better. While snacking on fruit and chatting, Samantha comes into the room. "Oh, mother-in-law, how are you feeling?" "Raymond, you took time off work, huh?" She approaches us with a forced smile and sits in the chair next to Raymond. Raymond didn't reply, looking down and gripping my bank book into his hand. Before I could say anything, Raymond spoke up with a voice lower than usual. "Samantha, Mom's malnourished. Do you know why?" Samantha stayed silent. There was a tense atmosphere. Raymond turned to face Samantha, glaring at her head-on. "Mom's been broke for so long, barely able to buy food. It's not just food. She's been cutting back on electricity and gas, living on the edge for years. When I went to her place today, there wasn't even a heater in the dead of winter." "Well, wait, Raymond, we're in a hospital. What happened? It's not Samantha's fault. There's no money." I tried to calm down the yelling eldest son while hiding my frostbitten, swollen, red-black hand. Ignoring me, Raymond continued with an angry tone. "I asked you to send $1,100 to Mom every month, right? But she's only received 60 cents for the last 5 years, Samantha. What's going on?" Saying that, Raymond thrust my bank book at Samantha. On every page, there was the number 60 cents. I couldn't believe my ears. I don't remember ever receiving $1,100. The money from Raymond was always 60 cents. Samantha, cornered by the furious Raymond, looked away from the bank book and fell silent. "That's not all. I give you $150 every week for Mom's medical expenses and medication, right? You said you were using the leftover money to buy her necessities and groceries, but they were only withered vegetables in her room. The fridge was empty." "Be quiet. I gave her the medicine." "What kind of medicine? Without a doctor's prescription, you decided to prescribe it yourself." "All that was in Mom's house were basic vitamins. You bought some random vitamins at the drugstore where you work, put them in a medicine-like bag, and handed them over, didn't you? What were you thinking?" Raymond's tone was stern. "I had no choice. I needed the money," Samantha yelled back to the furious Raymond. Even though this was a private room, we were still in a hospital. As I was shocked by the contents of the eldest son and his wife's conversation, I felt anxious. "You needed money, so you stole Mom's precious savings from her dresser too." With that, Raymond pulled a crushed box out of his backpack. On the lid was a drawing of my husband and me, drawn by Raymond when he was a child. It was the box of rice crackers I had been searching for the last week. I, too, was so shocked that I gasped. "What? No way." I didn't want to believe it either, but I found it while searching through our trash after you said it disappeared a week ago. "He really did it, didn't you?" Faced with undeniable proof, Samantha turned pale and lost her words. "So what did you do with the $250,000 that was in this box, huh? And the $1,100 you were supposed to send to Mom every month? The hospital fees and the medicine fees, where did it all go?" Raymond demanded. "Stop nagging. There's no money left." Samantha, who had been trembling as she stared at the box, eventually stood up, knocking over her chair, and yelled back defiantly, "It's all your fault anyway. You always ignored me and focused on your mother. Ben is way better than your husband." "Huh. Ben? He's the coolest host at the club around here. I've been supporting him, and soon he'll be number one. He said he's saving all the money I've given him for our life together." Samantha excitedly continued talking. Both Raymond and I stared at her blankly. I didn't quite understand, but it seemed she had fallen for a man and was providing him with money. Apparently, she needed a lot of money for that. All right, Samantha, I get it. Let's get a divorce right here for the sake of your life with this bang guy. Raymond quietly said this and took out the divorce papers and his seal from his backpack, placing them on the side table. I never want to see your face again. Sign the divorce papers here, pack your things tonight, and leave the house. I'll stay at the hospital tonight. Raymond's voice was firm, leaving no room for negotiation. What? Don't be so selfish. You can't just suddenly. Samantha, do you even realize what you've done? Faking medicine, stealing money. If you don't want a divorce, we can go straight to the police instead. Samantha, who had been so confident, flinched under Raymond's intimidating gaze and eventually started making tearful excuses. I had no choice. My part-time job wasn't enough. I took a little from the money you sent and the medicine fees, but I know it was wrong. Besides, neither you nor your mother noticed for years, right? You both share some responsibility. Enough. I don't know when you did it, but you went through my phone and blocked Mom's number. You even told her not to contact me, didn't you? You deliberately kept us apart and exploited her without getting caught. Raymond's anger was palpable as he slammed the divorce papers on a table with his fist. Samantha flinched. Anyway, Samantha, this is goodbye. I'll make sure you pay back every penny you've taken from us. Remember that. If you don't, we're going to the police. Raymond's voice was resolute. Finally realizing the gravity of her actions, Samantha couldn't say anything and signed the divorce papers with tears in her eyes. Samantha left the house that night, as Raymond had told her to, almost like she was running away. In exchange for not reporting her to the police, Raymond made sure to demand repayment of the money she'd taken, the amount she'd taken for the last 5 years since my husband's death, including the money for living expenses and medicine. In total, it amounted to over $900,000. I was shocked. Samantha later lost contact with the host she had given so much money to and went berserk in the club, getting herself banned. Bad rumors seemed to spread from nowhere, and before she knew it, they reached her part-time job, resulting in her being fired. With her income gone and not a penny to her name, Samantha couldn't rent an apartment and had to spend some time sleeping in internet cafes. But what happened to her after that is unknown. I had almost given up on getting back the money Samantha had taken as she had disappeared. But her family, who learned of the situation, decided to repay the debt in small amounts on her behalf. It might be difficult to recover the full amount of stolen money, but I was happy with their gesture. After being discharged from the hospital, I decided to leave with Raymond. We're living peacefully together in the house Samantha left, just the two of us. I had been forced to live a difficult life, being exploited by Samantha. But now, in our warm, comfortable home, I'm eating well, and my health has improved. Dane, the greengrocer who has always been worried about me, finally felt relieved. I still continue to make my specialty pickles. I used to do it just as a hobby and for saving money, but now, with Raymond's help, we're sharing information on how to make good pickles and delicious pickle recipes. In a few years, my pickle channel became hugely popular, possibly because an 80-year-old content creator was a novelty. And now, it brings in an amazing income. I had always thought that making money was impossible for me as I had never worked as a full-time employee. But even I can be useful to others. More than earning money, I've come to know the happiness of bringing joy to others and now live a fulfilling life every day.
I had a great time with the $20,000 I recently saved up. After returning from a week-long trip overseas, my mother-in-law Isabella called me excitedly, mentioning something about saving $20,000. I was puzzled because I didn't remember having such a large sum. As a freelancer, I do have some emergency savings in my bank account, but I don't usually keep that much cash. Plus, my banking card was right here, and no one else should be able to withdraw such a large amount without my knowledge. Isabella claimed she took the money from the sideboard drawer, assuming we were rich. I thanked her for her good intentions, but didn't understand why she thought I had given her the money. After this brief conversation, I wondered where the $20,000 came from. The mystery was solved when Anthony, presumably her husband, returned home a month later. Fast forward to a month later, and Isabella made over 80 calls, which I ignored. When I finally answered, she accused me of something, and I didn't quite understand. It seemed like she was upset, but I couldn't figure out why. Isabella's persistent calls became annoying, and when I finally answered, she started blaming me for something. Confused, I realized she was reaping what she had sown. Isabella's voice echoed loudly through the phone speaker as I learned her name was Scarlett, a 32-year-old freelance jewelry designer. I really want children, but my job keeps me very busy. My husband, Anthony, who is the same age as me, used to have a regular job, but now he helps manage my work. When we got married, I wasn't making much as a designer, and we relied on Anthony's income. However, as I turned 30, my work became more stable, and I needed help managing my schedule. Anthony, who had a good position at his job, decided to quit and join me as a business partner. With his help, we now have deals with famous international brands. Although we face challenges as a couple, the main issue is Anthony's mother, Isabella, who lives alone in his family home. Isabella thinks we're living a luxurious life and often asks for money. She believes we live extravagantly, attending fancy parties and dinners with company executives. While these events are part of my job as a jewelry designer, Isabella sees them as leisure. She even asks for money to throw a party for her friends. I can afford to give her money, but it's not as glamorous as it seems. These events are expensive, and I have business obligations that I can't refuse. We're now living in luxury. It's all part of our work, dressing up beautifully and eating at expensive places. Isabella often expresses her envy towards us with a hint of sarcasm. Despite my continuous refusals to her requests, Anthony, being her son, sometimes gives in and hands her money. He believes it's a small price to pay to keep her quiet and avoid interruptions to our work. However, Isabella's demands only increase, leaving both of us frustrated. Recently, Isabella came over and pestered Anthony about buying a new dress for an upcoming gathering. Despite suggesting a more affordable two-piece suit, she insisted on an expensive dress for the fancy party. I believe proper attire, whether old or new, shouldn't matter, but Isabella makes a fuss. She also added that she needed a matching bag and was counting on us for that. To address Isabella's constant money demands, Anthony set up a credit card in her name, telling her to use it for her expenses. Initially, she overspent and got warned by Anthony. He then asked her to report before making significant purchases. However, Isabella continued to overspend, once even buying an expensive ring without prior notice. The bill became astronomical, and Anthony, who was paying the bills, couldn't afford it. Isabella seemed to think the credit card meant endless spending without consequences. Anthony, frustrated with the situation, decided to put a limit on her card spending. Isabella stormed in, complaining that she couldn't pay for her recent shopping, not realizing the financial strain her overspending was causing us. "We've lowered your monthly limit, but it's still enough, right?" Isabella challenged, questioning the fairness of our lifestyle. She argued that her desire for fun and luxury wasn't much different from our work-related dressing up and attending fancy places. We explained that events like product launches and parties were part of our job, often taking place in luxurious venues. However, Isabella perceived it as us having fun rather than working. Since putting a limit on her credit card, she had quieted down a bit. Occasionally, she would come to our house and complain to Anthony, but life went on without major issues. As the year-end approached, a foreign brand approached me with a proposal to expand our business overseas. Excited about the opportunity, I saw it as a chance to join the ranks of top-tier designers. Anthony, handling things as my manager, saw it as a rare opportunity we had to take. However, there was a concern about Isabella. Given her past behavior, it was plausible that she might want to come with us. When we told her about our plans that weekend, she reacted just as we predicted. Isabella insisted we were trying to trick her and live even more lavishly overseas. Anthony tried to explain that it was for work, not leisure, but Isabella wouldn't give up, fearing we planned to move there permanently. "We'll come back after our work settles down overseas," I reassured Isabella. She seemed worried that our plans would leave her behind. Both Anthony and I were exhausted from this circular argument. We couldn't take her with us, but Anthony, worn out from convincing her, suggested paying for a week-long trip for her instead. "Really? Are you sure?" Isabella half-happily accepted, and Anthony promised to cover her flight and hotel expenses. However, the peace didn't last long. A few days later, while Anthony was busy with overseas arrangements, Isabella visited our house. Anthony said that, "But I want to shop over there too. Can you give me some money?" she requested. I asked about the card Anthony had given her, and she admitted he had taken it away, fearing she might misuse it with different currency rates overseas. I explained that I couldn't give her money without Anthony's approval. Isabella left, raising her voice, and over the New Year's, she went on a 7-day trip abroad. Upon her return, Isabella revealed an unbelievable truth. She called me excitedly, sharing her experiences and mentioning she had overspent on souvenirs. Feeling fed up, I asked about the money she claimed I had saved up for her. I had no recollection of such money, and the situation took an unexpected turn. I had some savings in my bank account for business emergencies, but Isabella couldn't possibly withdraw cash from it. Despite what she claimed, I had no memory of it. She said she found $20,000 in our house's sideboard drawer, and I was confused about why such money would be there. I couldn't imagine us keeping such a large amount of cash at home. I told Isabella that if she took money from our house without permission, it amounted to theft, even if she's family. I emphasized the seriousness of the situation, especially if Anthony had set the money aside for an important deal. There hadn't been any disruption in our business dealings or payments while Isabella was on her trip. Isabella nonchalantly admitted to using the money, saying, "I'm telling you now that I used it." I pointed out that taking someone else's money without permission is a crime and expressed my concern about her entitled reasoning. Isabella defended herself, saying, "You two live so extravagantly, so why can't I have a little of that? Think of it as doing a favor for your parent." I found her reasoning inappropriate, considering she took money without asking. I promised to ask Anthony about the money when he got back. Isabella believed Anthony would understand, being his only mother, and claimed that $20,000 wasn't much to him. I agreed to pass along the message, still uncertain about the entire situation. I was amazed at Isabella's lack of awareness, and she ended the call by saying, "Please tell him that, thanks." Still baffled by the $20,000 in cash at home, I asked Anthony about it when he returned that night. Anthony had withdrawn the money from his bank account 10 days ago for an urgent payment. He needed cash immediately, but I was surprised that he kept such a large sum in a drawer, considering the potential risks. Anthony, looking troubled, asked if I knew anything about it. Today, Isabella called, thanking us for the $20,000 and mentioning she had a blast with it. I didn't understand what she meant, but it turned out the money was Anthony's after all. However, we still didn't know what such a large amount was meant for. I questioned Anthony about why he had left such a large sum at home, especially when we usually did bank transfers. Anthony explained that after limiting Isabella's credit card amount, she had secretly borrowed money from various sources, including consumer finance cards and credit cards she had opened without his knowledge. When Anthony discovered this, he took all her cards and prepared the cash to repay Isabella's growing debt. Although he gave her the cash, he knew she might spend it recklessly. The situation became clearer, but the mystery of Isabella's actions remained. I planned to pay the institutions directly through bank transfers, but Anthony preferred fewer records in our bank accounts for the sake of trust with our business partners in bookkeeping. So he decided to withdraw the cash and pay individually. Supporting Isabella's overseas trip was like a parting gift, knowing we wouldn't be able to take care of her like before after moving abroad. As time passed, Isabella's calls to my mobile phone became frequent, almost 80 calls every day. Anthony had advised me not to bother with her, but the persistence made me concerned. One day, Isabella's voice sounded almost like a cry as she apologized for bothering me during the busy moving preparations. She explained that she was receiving payment demands almost every day, and Anthony seemed to be blocking her calls. Isabella couldn't get through to him and pleaded for my help, saying I was her only hope. I was surprised that Anthony would take such a drastic step with his own mother. If he had used the money he prepared to pay off Isabella's debts, this situation might have been avoided. Now, Isabella was inundated with collection letters from finance companies and consumer lenders, facing non-stop collections calls and seeming helpless to do anything about it. It was a scene I had only seen in dramas before. I mentioned it to Anthony, but I couldn't predict his response. Isabella pleaded for help, saying it was a son's duty to assist his mother. The call ended, and I told Anthony about it when he returned home, but he dismissed it coldly, stating that Isabella wasted the opportunity herself. Despite the continued calls from Isabella, I decided to block her number, following Anthony's lead. While I wished I could help, being Anthony's mother meant there was nothing I could do if he had chosen to ignore her. As the day of our move overseas approached, I needed to finish packing. Looking around the still cluttered room, I couldn't shake the lingering feeling of helplessness in the face of Isabella's predicament. It turned out that Isabella had to sell her house to settle her debts. In addition to the $20,000 Anthony had intended to use for repayment, she had hidden even more debts. The amount was so substantial that even after selling her land and house, she couldn't fully clear it. The total balance was unimaginable. Our family home was gone, and Anthony, though somewhat sad, acknowledged there was nothing we could do. Losing the house where one grew up must have felt like a significant loss. Anthony, having lost his place to return to because of his living mother, must have been feeling a deep sense of loss. Isabella now lived in a cheap apartment, struggling to repay the remaining debts with her part-time job. At her age, finding work must be challenging. I felt a bit of sympathy for her. However, the consequences of her spending led to this, so she was to blame. Even for the elderly, taking responsibility for their actions is necessary. Despite the challenges, my business was thriving overseas, and the move had brought more inquiries from other brands. I received offers from unexpected places, something I couldn't have imagined back home. Although it was all appreciated, I was so busy that I barely had time to sleep. Anthony, too, was occupied with various tasks. At this rate, having children was still a distant thought. I pondered this as I gazed at the foreign cityscape outside the window. Hi there, I'm Mabel, a 30-year-old who recently found herself in possession of a substantial fortune. This unexpected windfall led me to uncover an unsavory side of my husband. Today, I'll share this tale and how I inadvertently sought retribution against two individuals simultaneously. But first, a bit more about me. I had a close bond with my grandparents, even though we lived apart. Every few months, they'd visit, and my grandmother, in particular, showered me with love and affection. My grandfather's passing at 17 left me devastated, and I decided to attend college in my grandmother's state to stay close to her. It was during college that I met Toby, my now ex-husband, and we began dating in our junior year. Our relationship flourished, and we got engaged after graduating. While waiting for financial stability to tie the knot, Toby moved in with me. Everything seemed great, except for the challenge of dealing with his sister, Julia. Julia, living in a different state, adored Toby excessively and viewed me as a threat to their bond. Despite her constant rudeness, I tolerated her visits because she brought along her daughter, Viola, with whom I shared a special connection. Toby, unfortunately, never stood up for me, unwilling to hurt his sister. Fast forward to 4 years into our marriage, two significant events unfolded. Firstly, my beloved grandmother passed away, leaving me grief-stricken. Inheriting a substantial sum meant little compared to the loss. Secondly, Julia and her family returned to town. Toby's presence at home dwindled as he spent most of his time with Julia or, when at home, focused on her needs. Desperate to reconnect with Toby, I attempted to discuss my feelings, but he remained indifferent. Until one rare day when he returned home alone, affording us a chance to talk. I cautiously broached the subject. "Hey, sweetie, how was your day?" This marked a rare opportunity to address the growing distance between us. I yearned for her presence, and being around her just makes everything feel right. Anyway, do you want to hear what we discussed? Sure, go ahead. Well, I was sharing with her our plans to purchase a house. Hold on, I never agreed to that. Just hear me out. Julia asked about the funding, and I explained your inheritance. She believes it's a wise investment for our future. Why do you think that? You have more than enough money to almost fully buy a house. Investing in a home would secure our future, and I genuinely think it's a smart move. But I have other ideas for my money, things that could benefit both of us. I don't want to put all my money into one thing. It's like you're implying that your money is exclusively yours, not ours. Well, in a way, it is. I decide how to use it, and you can't dictate that. Look, either invest in something for both of us, or I'm leaving. Leave? Where would you go? You're practically begging me to use my money for a house. If you choose to leave, it's your loss. So you're fine with me leaving because you want to keep your money to yourself. Don't twist my words. I brought it up because I thought you loved me and wanted a future together. Forgive me for trying to secure our future. You're not making sense. I'm keeping my money and I'll decide where and how to spend it. Fine, but can you at least consider spending it on a house for us? I wasn't sure why Toby was so insistent on buying a house, but something felt off. That's why I stood my ground. After that conversation, Toby distanced himself even more, spending increasingly more time at Julia's place. Julia stopped visiting, except to drop Viola off for me to babysit. I attempted to have a conversation with Toby numerous times, trying to understand what was bothering him. However, he always evaded the topic, insisting that everything was fine. Eventually, I gave up, hoping he'd open up when he was ready. Things took an unexpected turn one day when Julia dropped off Viola for me to babysit. "Hey, Viola, how's my favorite niece doing?" I teased. "I'm your only niece. Still your favorite, though," she chuckled. We planned the day out for ourselves, discussing nail colors and ice cream flavors. Suddenly, Viola dropped a bombshell. "I heard Mommy and Uncle talking the other day about cases and a big house after you left." Shocked, I probed further. Viola confirmed what she heard. She felt guilty for sharing, but I assured her she did nothing wrong. After our day together, I made her promise not to tell her mom or Toby. As Julia picked up Viola, panic gripped me. Toby's deception was unfathomable. I decided to call Toby's father, Edgar, a lawyer. Despite the risk, I trusted Edgar's integrity. He answered cheerfully, and I hesitantly explained the situation. "Hi, Edgar. How are you?" I began. After exchanging pleasantries, I confessed my concerns about Toby's behavior. Despite Toby's presence being the issue, I sensed Edgar could help. His response, however, left me anxious. "I consistently urged Toby to treat you right because women as remarkable as you are hard to come by." "Thank you, Edgar. You might be the only one in your family who sees me that way." I expressed my gratitude. "What are you talking about?" he inquired. I recounted babysitting Viola, who disclosed that Toby and Julia were plotting something against me. Edgar was taken aback, seeking clarification. Viola didn't know the specifics, but there was mention of a case and plans to take money from me. Stunned, Edgar asked, "What in God's name are you telling me?" "I also don't know what's going on. I'm worried, and I thought I'd come to you for help, considering you're a lawyer." "Good job coming to me. Do you believe Viola?" he asked. "I do, especially because Toby has distanced himself from me in the past few months. I tried talking to him, but he never took me seriously." "Why do you think Julia is involved?" "Ever since she moved back, they've been spending a lot of time together. I get that they were apart for years, but recently, Toby's been at her house for hours every day. It's a bit odd. Something must have happened a few months ago that triggered Toby's strange behavior." "Ah, what happened a few months ago?" "I received my grandmother's inheritance after her passing, a substantial amount. Toby wanted to use it to buy a house, but I was hesitant. Since then, he's been acting strange. My guess is they're planning to get their hands on my money." Edgar expressed concern for his children's actions, apologized, and suggested meeting at his office the next day to discuss the situation further. Grateful for his support, I took a day off and visited his office. Edgar apologized once again, but I insisted on focusing on finding a resolution. We suspected Toby might seek a divorce, so our first step was to contact reputable divorce lawyers in the city for advice. limiting Toby's options due to a potential conflict of interest. The next challenge was unraveling their plan to take my inheritance. Thankfully, Edgar was by my side, offering guidance and support. I had the foresight to keep my inheritance money in a separate bank account, never using it for Toby or myself. Though I intended to purchase luxury items for Toby, it became clear that it wouldn't happen since they couldn't access the funds. Edgar and I suspected they might resort to outright theft. Knowing I could control the situation by setting a trap, I utilized the advanced security system in my apartment, a precaution against potential break-ins, which Toby knew about and agreed to when he moved in. Subtly, I hinted to Toby that my bank details were on my laptop, feigning bank troubles he could assist with. Furthermore, I informed Toby of plans to meet a friend over the weekend, leaving him alone at home. Edgar acted as my alibi. During our conversation, I received a notification of a transfer from my account to our joint one. Alerting the police upon my return, I confronted Toby. Sitting in the dining room, Toby initiated the conversation. "We need to talk." "About us?" I inquired. "We're not working out," Toby declared. "I agree," I replied, surprised. "You agree? What do you mean?" "For one, I didn't appreciate you threatening to end things over money. I would have spent it on both of us had you not done that. I didn't think you would. And that's another issue. You think so little of me. That's not a sign of a good partner. You've been selfish since the start, and I tolerated it because I loved you." "How was I selfish?" "I helped you pay off your student loans first, not mine. I supported you for a year when you were unemployed. I sacrificed a lot for your happiness. Don't act like you were righteous. I would have done the same for you. You never helped me out," Toby countered. "Why would I expect you to sacrifice your comfort for me when I was sick? You're just trying to make me feel bad," Toby retorted. "No, and my last reason for not wanting to be with you is that I don't want to be with a lying, manipulative thief," I replied. "What are you saying?" "Don't think I don't know about what you and Julia have been planning. I saw you transfer money from my account into our joint account. I know you wanted to split that during the divorce." No, don't even bother. I know about everything. You are a pathetic man, and I see no reason to be with you." "Well, I'll still get half of what I transferred into our account. I still win." "Will you?" "If I recall correctly, I had security cameras installed in my apartment, and you made that transaction from my laptop when I wasn't at home. I've already reported you for theft. The police should be here anytime soon." "You did what?" "Oh, here they come. Good luck. I'll see you in court." The relief of finally seeing Toby pay for his actions was unparalleled. The following weeks were a nightmare of courtroom sessions and evidence viewing. Along with the theft charges, I filed for divorce. Edgar, my lawyer, fought diligently to ensure Toby paid properly for his crime. Edgar won the case, and Toby was sentenced to 2 years in jail with an additional $30,000 fine. Nothing tasted sweeter than the flavor of revenge. As Edgar and I celebrated our victory, Julia approached us. She had been conveniently absent during previous trials, choosing to show up only on the day of the verdict. That in itself spoke volumes. Angry, she pointed her finger at Edgar. "Dad, you were helping this witch. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't have helped Toby." "I don't know, Julia. Maybe because she literally put your brother in jail and he deserved his sentence. That'll make him think twice before trying to steal from someone again." "How could you do that to your own son? How could you do that to your own brother? Don't think I didn't see the real reason behind your plan. You were going to help Toby get the money so you could also reap the benefits. I was trying to give him a break from this jerk here. You have no idea how toxic she is for him." "I don't think she was the toxic one, Julia. You were a bad influence on him, and he was stupid enough to fall for your little game. He's getting the punishment he deserves, and maybe now he'll think twice before ever listening to you. You know you're going to lose him this way. He will never talk to you. Good, because, as far as I'm concerned, I have no children. I'll be here, but I'm not happy with the way you treated my baby brother. As far as I'm concerned, neither you nor your brother are my children because I know for a fact that this is not how I raised my kids. What are you talking about? What I'm saying is that I'm disowning both of you, and I want nothing to do with either of you. You can't do that. I actually can, and I'm going to do just that. This is all Mabel's fault. If she just thought of someone other than herself for a second, this would not have been happening. No, you should not have been so greedy. I was going to spoil Toby with all the things he wanted, but you had to interfere. You took away everything from him, and I hope you sit and think long and hard about what you did to your brother. Goodbye. I grabbed Edgar's hand, and we left. We couldn't help but let out a chuckle at what had happened. I was happy that Toby got what he deserved, and that I was going to be free of his manipulative ways. I was also happy to see Edgar take my side. I did feel bad that it was because of me that he had lost both of his children, but he assured me that it was their own decisions that led to that. I took him out for coffee afterward, and we've maintained a good friendship ever since. Julia harassed me a bunch over text, and Edgar took it upon himself to tell Julia and her husband to leave me alone. Now this is where I unintentionally got revenge on Julia as well. You see, Julia's husband had no idea about Julia's involvement in what happened between Toby and me, so he called Edgar and asked him what happened and was shocked to learn about what Julia had done. Apparently, their marriage had been in the dumps for a while because of Julia's constant nagging that he never brought home enough money while simultaneously refusing to work. He did not like that she would go to such lengths and ask for a divorce, of course. He also asked for full custody of Viola and managed to get almost full custody. Julia got custody for every other weekend. Not to mention, she didn't get much through that divorce either, considering that he had her sign an ironclad prenuptial agreement before marriage. Julia only received a small amount of alimony for a set period of time, and she was kicked out of their house. Once again, she blamed it all on me, and if I'm being completely honest, I was a little happy to see the way she got what she deserved. She tried to meddle in someone else's life, and she paid the ultimate price for it. Not to mention, I got to see Viola still because she loved me, and Julia's ex-husband could not say no to Viola. He was very apologetic for what Julia did, but I reminded him that he had no idea, so he had nothing to apologize for. And before you ask, yes, I am spoiling Viola senseless. As for me, my life is only getting better. I got a promotion at work and also decided to hire an accountant to help manage all my finances. I have invested my money in a few places, and it's only a matter of time before I get my returns on those. Getting to where I am today took a lot of struggle, but let me tell you, the view from where I'm at is one that I'm loving. I have a better understanding of people, and I'm going to be a lot more cautious. Thank you for your time. I received a shocking revelation at my workplace. My daughter, left in the car, had passed away. The news came abruptly from a police officer, leaving me in a state of distress. Frantically, I hurried to contact my mother, who was supposed to be watching over my child. Thankfully, she assured me that everything was fine. My daughter was currently enjoying a snack. Relief washed over me momentarily, but it was short-lived. The penetrating gaze of the police officer raised suspicions, making me realize a hidden truth. I am Kinayan Mullen, 38 years old, residing with my husband and child. My husband, 4 years my senior, works as a sales manager at a house manufacturing company. His demanding job often keeps him occupied on both weekdays and holidays, making him less involved in childcare and household duties. Requesting his help in picking up our child on his days off often resulted in frustration. Recalling a past incident when I worked at a drugstore on a Sunday, I asked him, who was on a day off, to care for our child. His response was dismissive, stating that he needed to relax on his day off, unlike me, a mere part-timer. Despite my concerns about his nonchalant attitude and whether he was properly caring for our child, Lucien, who is adept at playing independently, didn't require much attention. However, that day at work was difficult as I couldn't shake off the worry about my husband's caregiving capabilities. Subsequently, I entrusted my child to my nearby living mother. Fearing confrontation and reluctant to make situations awkward, I struggled to voice my concerns. He's exhausted. I need to understand that. I reasoned with myself, grappling with the challenges of parenting and managing household responsibilities on a part-time basis. Then, a pivotal incident unfolded on a particularly cold day. At the crack of dawn, the store manager called me urgently. "Could you fill in for a colleague who isn't feeling well?" Staff members often covered for each other's shifts. "I'll be a bit late. I have to drop off my son at my mom's, but it's fine," I assured and ended the call. Upon contacting my mother, she readily agreed, prompting me to hastily prepare. Unexpectedly, my usually reserved husband, Jeffrey, offered unusually supportive words. "Should I take him to your mother-in-law's?" I was taken aback by his uncharacteristic concern. "Really? Are you sure? What about your job?" His unexpected support astonished me, and he assured, "It's all right. I'll make it on time." Observing him happily picking up our son, I expressed my gratitude. "Thanks, but he needs a car seat." "Why don't I use your car today? I'll even drop you off at the train station." "You're not comfortable driving my car, right?" His large car intimidated me, but he reassured, "It's genuinely helpful." Following a safe day at work, I received sincere thanks from the store manager, and even regular customers expressed their gratitude. The warmth of appreciation made me happy. However, just before concluding my shift around 4:00 p.m., an unexpected intercom announcement summoned me to the backyard. 2 men awaited, and the store manager discreetly informed me, "It's the police," introducing me with a puzzled expression. "This is Cam Mullen Police. Yes, I am Mullen." Despite my confusion, I struggled to piece together the situation, but nothing seemed to justify a policeman in casual attire approaching me. The officer scrutinized me from head to toe, urging me to remain calm as he delivered the devastating news. "Please calm down and listen. Your daughter has passed away." "Daughter? Whose daughter?" My confusion deepened as they proceeded to explain the grim circumstances. A 1-year-old girl had tragically succumbed to the cold in my car, parked behind the station. The police, treating me as a suspect, detailed how the adjacent car's driver had discovered the distressing scene, prompting an ambulance call that proved too late. Only then did I realize I was under suspicion for creating the tragic situation. "Wait a second. I don't understand what you're saying. I have a son, and my mother is with him today." Yes, I'll cooperate at the police station." Despite my protests and attempts to clarify, the police officer lightly patted me down, refusing to let me speak further. It became apparent that they assumed I had left my child unattended in the car while I was at work. Treated like a criminal, it was only after being placed in a police car that I was granted permission to contact my mother. This is absurd. I'm with him, of course. My mother, unaware of the situation, seemed shocked by my call. Despite the relief flooding over me upon hearing the voices of my mother and son, knowing my child was safe, the stark reality of the girl's tragic death in my car lingered. Upon reaching the police station, a detective with an intense gaze relentlessly questioned me, describing how my husband had taken our child to my mother's place that morning seemed to temporarily dispel suspicions. However, my attempts to contact my husband during the police inquiry remained unanswered. They asked, "Can you confirm if you know the missing girl?" This moment proved more challenging than the initial suspicion. Gazing at the girl, appearing peacefully asleep, I cried, overwhelmed with guilt. Unfortunately, I only had a vague impression of having seen her somewhere. Honestly admitting this to the police, they urged, "If you recall anything, contact me," finally releasing me as darkness enveloped the outside. Anxious to reunite with my son, I rushed to my mother's house. In the midst of explaining the situation to my mother, tears flowed, providing comfort as my child slept peacefully. Returning home after 9:00 p.m., my son fell asleep once more. I attempted numerous calls to my husband, who remained unresponsive. A midnight message arrived, revealing an unexpected business trip. Despite my immediate call, there was no answer, so I messaged back, informing him of the unsettling events. However, subsequent attempts to reach him were met with silence. The following day, I faced the morning after a sleepless night, haunted by a lingering concern. Beyond the distress involving my husband, the image of that girl persisted, as if I had encountered her before. Resolving to seek answers, I waited for my husband's work hours to commence, gathering the courage to make the call. My intention was to have his workplace contact him during his business trip. Surprisingly, I learned that my husband had taken a vacation since the previous day. Grateful yet perplexed, I found myself temporarily unable to process anything after the phone call. Amidst the shock, the idea of confiding in my best friend Chrissy dawned on me. Ready to make the call, I was met with astonishment upon opening my phone. In haste, I reviewed the messages from Chrissy lie. It's a lie. One of the images there shook me to the core, as the girl in the picture with Chrissy was the same girl left in my car. Oh my God, it was Chrissy's daughter who passed away. Suddenly, the fragments of yesterday's inexplicable events started connecting. The question echoed. Why was Chrissy's child abandoned in my car? Convinced that this wasn't a delusion, I began to suspect my husband and best friend of having an affair. 2 years ago, Chrissy, single after a divorce, had cryptically shared about her pregnancy, refusing to disclose the father. I won't tell you who the dad is. I'm just a single mother, she had laughed meaningfully. The possibility that the girl might be my husband's child loomed, though uncertain. Fueled by unbearable anger at being deceived for so many years, I felt a determination to unveil the truth in honor of the departed girl. My lack of assertiveness had allowed me to navigate my marriage without confronting my husband. However, upon discovering the betrayal, a newfound determination stirred within me. Realizing that 2 foolish adults had tormented an innocent child, I promptly took action to address the issue. After dropping my daughter off at the nursery, I headed straight to Chrissy's house. Upon arriving at her apartment and ringing the doorbell, Chrissy, still half asleep, answered. It's been a while. Did I wake you up? Huh, Kanaya, what's going on? Chrissy, lacking makeup, attempted to shut the door, but I anticipated it and placed my bag between the doors. There's Jeffrey too, right? Let's talk, the 3 of us. Despite Chrissy's panic, I found myself chuckling, perhaps due to the absurdity of the situation. Chrissy seemed unnerved by my strange laughter. All right, you should have told me you're coming, she grumbled but gestured for me to come in. Navigating to the back room, I heard my husband's voice calling out in surprise. What, Kenya? He was still in bed. However, his surprise was short-lived, and by the time he joined us in the living room, he seemed prepared to face me. Well, you've already found out, he nonchalantly remarked as soon as he saw my expression. Chrissy, who had been visibly upset moments ago, was now grinning behind my husband. Can you not make fun of me? I have something I want to ask. Oh, I'm scared. Despite the urge to scold Chrissy for her unserious demeanor, I suppressed it. I assume you've already been informed about her daughter. If you know that, why are you 2 here? Why haven't you gone to pick her up? It seemed they anticipated that I would be contacted regarding Chrissy's daughter. I couldn't fathom their actions, wondering just how much they knew about the situation. Give me a break. The police are taking care of that kid right now. She didn't even realize her child was missing and was shockingly optimistic. I learned, feeling disheartened by her ignorance. Simultaneously, I decided to unveil the truth after listening to their version of events. How did this happen? We were surprised too. There were a lot of people around when we returned to the parking lot. Oh yes, some people are just so dramatic, they casually remarked, delving into the details of the previous day. My husband, on vacation, had initially planned to spend time with Chrissy. However, Chrissy's child complicated matters when they tried to enter the hotel in front of the station. That's why he parked my car in a lot and went to the hotel with her child still inside. As I learned of this impulsive decision, my jaw couldn't help but drop. When I exited the hotel and returned to the parking lot, the police were surrounding my car. He even saw the ambulance and thought it was a bad situation, so he ran away. In a typical scenario, one would be concerned about the child's safety, but they interpreted the situation in their favor. I'm dismayed to hear that she's relieved to be free from taking care of her child under the protection of the police. How long has your relationship been going on? I confronted them directly, urging them to share their side of the story. You're insensitive, Kaya. Right after I got divorced, it's been 4 years. I gave her some advice during her divorce, and things happened. It's a common pattern, I guess. Back then, I had suspected my husband of having an affair. Pregnant and anxious, I chalked it up to overthinking. I was astounded that my best friend was involved. So you're the father of Chrissy's child. Unlike my son, my daughter is cute. My husband candidly admitted, almost as if he aimed to provoke me. He confessed to the spontaneous idea of using my car, considering that Chrissy lacked one, and using my car with a child car seat would make outings with all 3 of them more convenient. Then you should have divorced me and married Chrissy, I retorted, feeling like our time together had been wasted, placing the blame squarely on my husband. Yet again, he made an absurd claim. If you do that, my company will find out about the affair and the child. It will hinder my promotion. The idea of sacrificing our relationship for such reasons filled me with disgust towards my husband. Kenya, that's not all. Chrissy, standing beside him, condescendingly laughed. Jeffrey told me his wife is a submissive housekeeper who doesn't talk back, allowing him to do whatever he wants. I questioned, okay, but were you okay with that? You have kids too. I pondered while Chrissy burst into laughter. Ha, I'm sick of marriage. I just want financial support for my living expenses. Oh yes, unlike Kaya, Chrissy costs me a lot. She's high maintenance. Ha ha ha. My husband and Chrissy, speaking openly, seemingly treated me as if I were invisible. Faced with their selfishness, my patience neared its limit. Anyway, what's our plan now? You can't escape this. I subtly directed the conversation. Is it that much of a trouble, Chrissy? Go pick her up. Then we got caught, so I have to pick her up. But the police will be mad at me. Yeah, she's not old enough to come home alone. So far, they don't seem to care about her child even once. And when they speak, it's all about their own worries. Enough is enough. There's no room for sympathy. Finally, I decided to reveal the truth. Honestly, I'm dumbfounded. Both of you only think about yourselves. Oh, what do you want to say? My husband glared at me, but I remained unfazed. I'll tell you the truth. Your daughter passed away yesterday. She was left in the car in the middle of winter. I revealed, watching as their eyes widened, and they screamed. Poor thing. I can't imagine how cold it was. Oh, you're lying. Your shallow actions have cost the life of a young child. Chrissy pointed at me, shouting angrily. It's all your fault, Kaya. Chrissy, you can't be mad at me. Why don't you reflect on yourself a little? I retorted. Shut up. It's your fault that you married Jeffrey. I don't understand what Chrissy is saying. When she introduced him to me, I wondered if Chrissy was delirious because of the shock of losing her child. When I'm having a hard time with my divorce issues, you can't get married to show it off to me. It's not supposed to happen. It's your fault. What are you talking about? You got divorced because of your own infidelity. It's your fault. No, it wasn't supposed to be like this. Chrissy, who started crying, continued to blame herself, saying, I should have been happier. On the other hand, my husband attempted to make excuses in front of her sobbing. Oh, it's none of my business. I was just going to have an affair from the beginning. It's too late. Chrissy's child doesn't really know I'm the father, does she, Kenya? We're not divorced yet, are we? Saying that, he approached me. I brushed his hand away and uttered in the lowest voice possible, Coward, don't show up in front of me again. Ignoring their ugly argument, I slipped away to the police. 2 days later, a call from the police informed them that the surveillance camera footage from the parking lot was the deciding factor, leading to their arrest. Both of them would now face justice properly. Their actions had set them on a long and arduous road filled with thorns. Meanwhile, I started to live a peaceful life with my mother and son. At the suggestion of the drugstore manager, I ended up working as a full-time employee. The unexpected restart of my life